Those Sunbelt standings are insane. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt. I am your host, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We're continuing to improve the Locked On Sunbelt set. We got the judge behind me. Love you, Dad. All right, great show for you today. We're going to talk about these crazy Sunbelt standings that everybody was tied for like second, and now everyone's tied for sixth. There seems to be two teams in the Sun Belt that are headed to the NCAAs right now. And that is Coastal Carolina, who's got a top 10 RPI, and Southern Miss, who's at 25. You do have Troy. Oh, maybe Troy is going to be in there as well. All right, let's go down this right now, because a couple of teams are, well, as Aerosmith on their final tour would say, living on the edge. And so let's see, making sure we understand this. Coastal Carolina is 7th. They took 2 out of 3 from the Cajuns. Southern Miss is 25th. And Troy is 33rd. So that's 3 teams that are basically it. All right. And if you want an at-large berth, you got to be in the top 40 when you're in a group of 5. You start messing around with 40, it's going to be tough for you to get in. That's why I don't happen to think Texas State is in right now. They can work their way in. They can still maybe get a top 40 RPI, but I don't think they're in right now. And that goes for ODU as well. They're 60th. They're not getting in either. Not unless they seriously improve their RPI standing. And the Raging Cajuns, geez, when I got here to become the afternoon host of 103.3 The GOAT, Sports Chat, by the way, and I'm trying to hold back a sneeze here. They were in first place. They had just swept Marshall. They were in first place. They have lost 4 out of their last 5 series. They're heading in the wrong direction. And you don't go into a baseball series looking to sweep, but that's what the Cajuns have to do. So let's go over some of these standings now. You do have Coastal Carolina 1 game over Southern Miss. Coastal Carolina is 15-6. Southern Miss 14-7. And then you have Georgia Southern 13-8, and Texas State is 12-9. So you do have the top 4 teams separated by all of 4 or 3 games. Each spot is separated by 1. Coastal leads Southern Miss by 1. Southern Miss leads Georgia Southern by 1. Texas State and Georgia Southern leads Texas State by 1. Texas State is even a half a game ahead of App State. They got 1 more win. And then you got 5 of these teams tied for 6th. Troy, Old Dominion, the Cajuns, Georgia State, South Alabama. The issue is going to be James Madison, who's played 2 less ball games. But they're 9-10 instead of maybe, say, 11-8, where their winning percentage would be better. But they're not. And so you have these teams that, are all bundled up. And I'm not sure the Cajuns aren't playing those teams, as it turns out. The Cajuns here in Lafayette, they got ULM, who is 5-15. They're not going anywhere. They will come home and take on Texas State. And then they're going to wrap up the season at Southern Miss. At one point in time, I was thinking that the Cajuns could find themselves, an at-large berth in the NCAAs. Not anymore. Where were they? I mean, let's be honest. The bottom has fallen out. If Old Dominion is 60, Louisiana is 77, right? They had, in fact, that's where they were when they right before they beat LSU. Then they got to 64. And then they got swept by James Madison. I mean, a brutal weekend in Harrisonburg. All right, so again, let's start from the top. Coastal Carolina fighting for a Sun Belt regular season championship. This time, based on their history, no one is going to be caught off guard playing Coastal Carolina from the Big South. They've already won one national championship. That was before they joined the Sun Belt, obviously. They've gotten 2 Sun Belt championship tournament championships under their belt. If they win this one, it would be their third. What is that, like 18, 19, and 23? That's pretty good. That would be pretty good. Southern Miss is right there as well. They're 1 game back. They haven't been quite as good as people had predicted them to be, specifically Tanner Hall. Maybe just a couple of bad starts, but not Paul Skeens-esque, if you will, when I think we thought he was going to be really, really good for Southern Miss. I may need to rephrase that. He's been good. He hasn't quite been lights out like people thought. All right. And nonetheless, they're right there as well. And then you do have, who did I say? Troy and Troy. Okay. So you have those 3 teams that are headed to the NCAAs as of right now. Okay. Is one of those 3 teams going to win the conference tournament? I mean, Georgia Southern is 23-21. They're 13-8. Texas State is 12-9. They're 29-16. Right? Old Dominion 11-10, but they're 28-15. Cajuns somehow have won 1 series in 6 weeks, and they're 29-17. I mean, they're, what if they just switched those 1 ball games with Coastal Carolina and they'd won that Sunday ball game, which they had the lead with 2 outs in the top half of the 9th inning, only to lose 3-2 in 11. That's how close it is between them and Coastal Carolina, who I guess is like 1.5 games ahead of them. Cajuns have 1 more win, but 2 more losses. Something like that. But what's going to happen here, this is what I want to go over, really, is the jumbled up spot. Also, I didn't do it for all the teams, but I know like the Cajuns, again, the Cajuns have won 1 series in the Sun Belt, and that was Marshall. So they don't have the tiebreaker against App State. They don't have the tiebreaker against Troy. They do have the tiebreaker against South Alabama. They do have that tiebreaker. That's right. All right. And that's big. And obviously they don't have it against James Madison either. We'll see what happens against Southern Miss, Texas State, and ULM. All right. So let's take a quick timeout, and we'll continue to discuss the standings and who or who may not take the next leap here based on who's playing who this weekend. All right. So not the easiest, but stay with me and we will discuss. All right. Meanwhile, I need to tell you a little bit about Built Bar because I'm going to get into this again. I'm not driving to the Sun Belt softball tournament. I mean, I am, but not going back and forth between Mobile and Pensacola. I'm going between the station and Lamson Park. The walk would be shorter than the drive from Mobile to Pensacola. But because I don't want to stuff myself with popcorn and hamburgers and hot dogs, although those things are delicious, I do need to start losing weight again, and these are going to help me. So I will be stocked come Sun Belt Conference softball tournament. But if you're looking for a delicious snack, but don't want all the sugar and calories, then you need to get the best tasting protein bar ever. That's Built. You got to try this. If you're like me and want to make a healthier snack choices, but you don't want to compromise on taste, I've got just a thing for you, Built Bars and Built Puffs. Built Bars are healthy and taste amazing. Seriously, they taste so amazing you won't know they're good for you. You got to try them. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and cookies and cream. And we got another flavor for you. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar. What tastes like chocolate and peanut butter? While maintaining amazing macros, and what's even better is that they're healthy. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait to get a box. For years, we've been talking about and ordering Built Bars at Built.com, but now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club while you can still get your specialty flavors at Built.com. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate bar, or coconut puff. If you're close enough to Sam's, that's where I shop. Run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie, batter puff, and churro, which is my favorite. You can thank me later. Also, be on the lookout for the brand new peanut butter Built Bar. Again, that's a peanut butter bar covered in chocolate. That sounds familiar to me, but we're talking about Built. All right. I'll probably get 2 boxes of these things just to make sure it lasts, because I plan on doing the afternoon show from Lamson Park, leading right into the softball conference tournament, which, of course, the Cajuns will be favored in. All right. So, again, go to Built.com, go to Walmart, go to Sam's, and pick up your boxes of Built today. All right. It is Dave Schultz, more Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. So the Cajuns, well, let's see who we got here. We got to get to see if we can get to the page here. I'm not having the best time with my Wi-Fi for some reason. But let's see if we can get to the schedule. Sports, baseball schedule. Okay. And so, again, being here in Lafayette, I'm focusing on the Cajuns. They have to go sweep ULM. All right. I don't think it's a gimme. I don't think it's automatic. That doesn't mean they don't need to do it. All right. If they take 2 out of 3 from ULM and maybe take 2 out of 3 from Texas State and lose 2 out of 3 to Southern Miss, now that's what? And what is that? That would be 5-4. I'm not sure if that's going to get them in. Is that right? That'd be 5-4. I need them to be 6-3. I need the Cajuns to go 6-3 to guarantee themselves a shot in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. Should be noted that only the top 10 teams get in. So there's 14, and so they need to be able to do that. Okay, so let's check out these standings, or let's check out the schedule. All right, so James Madison and Marshall. That doesn't have, I guess James Madison is still fighting their way in. Let's see how many teams it is total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 teams, and that includes all the teams that are tied for 6th. So you have the 5 teams that are separated by 4.5 ball games at the top, and then the final 5 are all tied. All right. So, I mean, if you're James Madison, you're looking at this series playing the last place Marshall Thundering Herd, they can get back in the race. They're they're 2 games. They're actually 1 game behind South Alabama, but they've played 2 less ball games. We have to figure out how that would be determined if that's a situation later on. All right, so App State is taking on Coastal. That is in Conway. App State is right there. That's going to be a problem for App State. Can they take 2 out of 3 from Coastal Carolina? They've also played 1 less ball game than everybody else. Most of everybody else has played 21. They've played 20. And if God forbid, App State loses 2 out of 3 or gets swept, and all of a sudden they got a losing record, and say, I don't know, for example, the Cajuns go 3-0 against ULM. Now they're 14-10, and all of a sudden App State is 11-12. I mean, we're going to take a snapshot of these standings. Probably should be the picture for the podcast, because everyone will be able to see what I'm talking about. All right. Okay. Then you have Old Dominion and Arkansas State. And that's one that, Old Dominion's got to take care of, man. is what they got to do. Old Dominion's 11-10. Arkansas State's 5-14. Just like the Cajuns, they kind of have to think about sweeping. It's not fair, but you have to kind of do that. All right. So the Cajuns need to sweep against ULM. We talked about that. Georgia Southern and Troy. What a series that is. Georgia Southern 13-8. Troy 11-10. Troy is doing the hosting there. So even if Troy takes 2 out of 3 in that one, they're still behind Georgia Southern. So if Georgia Southern takes 1 and they lose 2, so they're 14-10. If Troy wins 2 and loses 1, they're 13-11. So they'd still be a couple of games behind Georgia Southern, but if it comes down to a tiebreaker, then they would win that. All right, but that's a really good series this weekend when some of these other series are not at all, right? Coastal Carolina and App State could be a good series. You got Georgia State and Texas State. Georgia State is one of those 5 teams that is tied. And Texas State is 12-9, just, let's see here, 3 games out of first place. And let's see where that series is. That series is at and in San Marcos. And again, so you'd think that Texas State would take 2 out of 3 there. I mean, we're going to see this. This will be like the parting of the Red Sea when these 5 teams, depending on how they do. And then you have South Alabama at Southern Miss. So compared to the Cajuns, South Alabama has won 5 straight weekend series, including taking 2 out of 3 from Troy. They started out 1-5. They are now 11-10. So they've won 10 out of their last 15 ball games in the Sun Belt. This is not going to be easy. In Hattiesburg, Southern Miss has won 6 straight overall. And so we'll see if South Alabama can stay hot. If you're looking, I mean, obviously all these teams want to win the series. But sometimes going into these places, if you can just win 1 and not get swept, it keeps your postseason hopes alive. But not like for the Cajuns. Also, by the way, South Alabama's got to play Coastal Carolina. Same thing the Cajuns are doing, although not in that order, right? They just played Coastal, and then they're going to get Southern Miss at the end. That's why this series against ULM is imperative, and that is a huge word on a Wednesday, in this case Tuesday night, on Locked On Sunbelt. Really important for the Cajuns to take 3 from ULM. I say that, and I thought the same thing was going to happen against James Madison, and they wouldn't be in this mess, except, they are in this mess because, wait for it, they got swept by James Madison. That's why we're here. If they had actually taken 2 out of 3 from James Madison and the Sunday game against Coastal Carolina, my goodness, that would be, they would be right there towards the top of the standings. They would be 14-7. They'd be 1 game out. Actually, they'd be all tied because Coastal Carolina would have 1 more loss. They'd all be tied. If they'd taken 2 out of 3 from James Madison and won that Sunday heartbreaker against Coastal Carolina, they would be right where they should be. Although only the Friday night game or the first game against James Madison was close. The 2 other games, I think, were just blowouts. They scored early, but I think they got blown out. So those games weren't, it wasn't a woulda, coulda, shoulda in those cases. It was, you lost a ball game you should have won, and then you let James Madison roll over you. So we'll see where we are at that point in time. It could be very interesting. All right. Let's take one more timeout. We'll come back and wrap things up, going over the standings one more time, and we'll see who wants to step up. Again, thank you so much for subscribing. Subscribers increased yesterday, and they're increasing today. The Mark Helvey episode did very well, so we appreciate that. Who knew Mark Helvey was so popular? So we do appreciate that, as he should be in this case, because South Alabama is incredibly hot right now and heading in the right direction, but it is not going to be easy here over the next 3 weeks. So continue to watch it, share it, subscribe on YouTube, and of course, you can subscribe at wherever you do get your podcasts from, audio-wise, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, wherever you get it. Just search Locked On Sunbelt. It is appreciated. It's a far-fetched goal. I know it really is, but could we get to 1,000 subscribers before college football? If the whole move thing I don't want to put the kibosh on it, but slowed the momentum down. But still, we're 2 months in since February, just over 2 months, maybe 8 weeks or 9 weeks since my visit to Lafayette. They got the ball rolling for me to take over at the GOAT, and we're up over 150 subscribers. So, in fact, over 160 subscribers. So if that keeps on building, and the way it looks out, just the more people subscribe, the more people watch the videos, other people see it, other people have suggested it, and it just grows exponentially. So that's where we are. I guess technically, if we get to 500 subscribers, that'd be great. But I really, might as well go for the gusto and go get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube by Labor Day weekend. That's the goal. All right. Let's wrap things up. Let's quickly recap the standings again and recap the matchups, because you do have some good matchups here. All right. So Coastal Carolina is the top of the standings. Southern Miss 1 game back. Georgia Southern 1 game back there. Texas State 1 game back. App State a half a game back behind Texas State. So again, the top 5 teams all separated by 3.5 ball games. That's it. Then the next 5 teams are all tied. Troy, Old Dominion, Louisiana, Georgia State, South Alabama, all 11-10. James Madison is lurking, and they get Marshall. James Madison 9-10 on the season. All right, quickly the matchups. You do have James Madison, as we mentioned, taking on Marshall. App State is at Coastal Carolina. Can App State make a move on the Chanticleers? Can Old Dominion take advantage of playing Arkansas State? The Cajuns going to ULM, taking on Monroe. You got to take at least 2 out of 3. I'm looking for a sweep. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They got to sweep them. Georgia Southern going to Troy. Troy looking for a series win over Georgia Southern, although they do need to. What if they swept it? What did I do? Troy is 2.5 games, so they would need, if they sweep them, they would be ahead of Georgia Southern by a game. All right, and then you get Georgia State and Texas State. Those teams are close, and South Alabama hot, Southern Miss hot. Big series in Hattiesburg between the Golden Eagles and the South Alabama Jaguars. So looking forward to watching that. And, of course, the Cajuns softball team wrapping up their regular season also against ULM. We already have Jerry Glasgow coming on. We're going to reach out to Becky Clark, see if we can get Becky Clark on to help preview the Sun Belt Conference Tournament. And maybe I'll even look into it, find the Marshall head coach, because they're having a whale of a season as well. And everybody is coming to me. So they're all coming to Lafayette to play in the Sun Belt Conference tournament in, about 10 days. Well, no, in about a week, technically. It starts next Wednesday. Okay. Thanks again for tuning in to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.